Welcome to the Cal Park Bros podcast. I'm your host, Terrence, and with me is a co-host, Jason, calling in from the Back Cave in Indianapolis. Jason, how are you, my good man?
I'm doing well, Terrence. Hopefully you're doing well there in the Fortress of Solid, dude. Much appreciated, man. Hey, it's Tuesday, so you know what it is. It's time to get into this. Another episode of Cal Park Bros to record. Three excellent topics, and yes, three appropriate topics as well. So I'm ready to get into it, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for listening. This is episode 34 of the Cal Park Bros podcast. For the uninitiated, Cal Park Bros is the podcast to hear. We are a weekly podcast for fans of culture, current events, sports, life, and entertainment.
And as always, we're your hosts, Terrence and Jason, and every single Thursday, we present to you a brand new episode where we discuss the current events of the day, sports, and the athletes we love.
And even some of the athletes we loathe. No matter the topic, you can expect a brutally honest and fun exchange of snark while learning through the lens of our 30 years of friendship that originated in Calumet Park, Illinois.
And friends, listeners, Romans, countrymen, this is the part you can't forget. For more Cal Power Bros content, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, under the handle Cal Power Bros or Cal Power Bros Podcast for more behind the scenes of the show and just to engage with us every single day. But also, you can't forget that the Cal Power Bros Podcast is available to subscribe and listen for free, no money, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Like us, love us, share us, follow us. And folks, if you like us, hell, why wouldn't you?
That's right. Like Terrence said earlier, the podcast are here. So make sure you live it, love it, do it. And that's it.
Yeah, I wish that we could keep that same level of fun going, but we're kind of starting the show off with a very sobering topic, which is the school yet another school shooting. This time in Michigan, in this was I'm referencing an article from CNN that hours after where this is the Ethan Crumbley. This is the 15-year-old accused of killing four of his fellow students at a Michigan high school. It's a Michigan suburb, I believe. So, it's Oxford, Michigan, by the way. I
Yeah.
feel like Detroit's getting a bad rap just because, like, okay, well, since the average American probably doesn't know where the hell Oxford is.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to point that out too. I didn't know where it was either, so I did look it up. So people, it's not really technically part of Detroit. It's about 45 minutes northwest of Detroit. So if you want to put it in the Detroit metro area, okay, but it's not actually in Detroit. It's like a small town, 3,000, 3,500 people, so it's not that big a thing. So don't lump it in with Detroit. Definitely a different type of population. Not that it matters, but yeah, but that's where it is. I'm sure no one listening to this probably knew where it was. So
Yeah, that's about as close to Detroit as Calumet Park is to Chicago. So
we're a little closer than that, though. We
we,
we, we can still claim Chicago. We're closer than that. We're at least
nah,
we're at least with. Well, hang on. We can claim to be part of the Chicago land area. I'm not saying we're from Chicago, but I tell people I'm from Chicago land because I was. I'm claiming it. Deal
you're
with
off
it.
subject. You're off subject. But anyways, um, yeah, I do think that's odd that they're tacking this on to the city of Detroit. But also, it's yet another school shooting.
Right.
And more damning is this isn't a scenario. The kid's 15. And apparently his parents literally just bought him this firearm on November 26th. So, yeah, that's they've already been uh they've already been they've already initiated the prosecution. Um, they've announced involuntary manslaughter charges against the parents of Ethan Crumbley, and I hope they put them under the jail because there are four kids that they're not going to be able to see their graduation day because of this enabling of this child. So, what are your thoughts on this on this particular school shooting, Jason?
Well, as I mentioned yesterday, is that the part of the story that I want to definitely touch on, which I think makes this a little different than other stories of kids doing bad things and getting in trouble, um, is that the parents, like you said, are being charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for their role in providing the gun essentially to their son. Well, before we get into all that, real quick, and I'm gonna let you jump in after I do this, I want to run through a quick timeline, real quick. So Friday, November 26th, 4 days before the shooting, James Crumley buys a 9 millimeter Sig Sauer from Acme Shooting Goods in Oxford, Michigan, according to the Oakland County prosecutor Karen McDonald. His 15-year-old son Ethan later posts a photo on IG of himself holding the semi handgun, writing, "Just got my new beauty today," and then there you go. He also includes an emoji, heart eyes and stuff like that. The next day, November 27th, Saturday, 3 days before the shooting, Jennifer Crumley writes on social media that it is a, quote, "mom and son day testing out his new Christmas present," the prosecutor says, referring to the gun. 2 days later, Monday the 29th, the day before the shooting, and this is kind of a good point here. The teacher sees Ethan searching online for ammunition with his cell phone during class and reports it to school officials, McDonald says. School personnel call Ethan's mother, leave a voicemail, and email her. She doesn't respond. While exchanging text messages with her son, she writes, "LOL, I'm not mad at you. You have to learn to not get caught." That night, Ethan records a video in which he discusses killing students, according to the sheriff, Lieutenant Tim Willis. Now, the day of the shooting, November 30th, Tuesday, a teacher finds a note on Ethan's desk that alarms her enough to take a photo, the prosecutor says. It includes a drawing of a handgun and the words, "The thoughts won't stop, help me." Also depicted is a bullet with the words "blood everywhere" above a person who appears to have been shot twice and is bleeding. A laughing emoji is drawn below the figure. The note also says, "My life is useless and the world is dead." The parents are immediately summoned to the school for a meeting that occurred around 10 a.m. Remember that, 10 a.m. A school counselor removes Ethan from the classroom and takes him to the office with his backpack. The counselor obtains the drawing, but Ethan has already scratched out portions of the drawing. The parents are shown the note and advised that they are required to get him counseling within 48 hours. They resist the idea of Ethan immediately leaving school, and they leave the school without Ethan. Ethan returns to the classroom. 12:51, about that time, Ethan emerges from a bathroom with a gun his father bought 4 days before. He fires at students in the hallway, killing 4 and wounding 6 other students and 1 teacher. Deputies capture him within minutes of the shooting. When news of an active shooter becomes public, Jennifer Crumley, the mom, texts her son at 1:22, quote, "Ethan, don't do it." 15 minutes later, at 1:37, James, the dad, calls 911 to report that a gun is missing from his house and believes his son may be the shooter. The gun had been kept unlocked in a drawer in the parents' bedroom, McDonald says. Uh, I guess the 4th student, Wednesday, December 1st, the 4 students, when they actually died. Ethan is charged as an adult with murder and terrorism. The third, James and Jennifer Crumley are charged with involuntary manslaughter. They don't show up for a 4 p.m. arraignment, and authorities begin searching for the pair. Late Friday, December 3rd, U.S. Marshals announced a reward of up to $10,000 for each for information leading to their arrest. Meanwhile, thousands flood downtown Oxford in a vigil honoring the victims. Saturday, December the 4th, the Crumleys are arrested at a commercial building in Detroit. Later that morning, they entered not guilty pleas during a Zoom hearing, and a judge sets bond at $500,000 each. So again, that was the 5th of the 4th. We're recording this as of the 7th. There's other news we're going to get into after this, but I wanted to read that timelines just so people didn't. I'm sure a lot of people probably knew the shooting, may not know the timeline. So I wanted to go over that, particularly to the point of what I mentioned before, that the parents being charged. And I'll let you jump in here in just a second, but you and I both have probably seen and heard people either in person or online say the parents need to be held responsible. This is the parents' fault. Where were the parents? Blah 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 blah. Well, here you go. Here's a case in point where the parents are being held responsible because they explicitly were, part of this. They put the gun. They literally put the gun in the kid's hand. Now I don't always necessarily agree with the whole blaming the parents on stuff, But I'll get more into that later. But Terrence, so that's a whole timeline. What do you think about all that?
I think for starters, first off, Jason, thank you for actually laying out the timeline. I think that's incredibly important.
Oh, real
Uh,
quick, that came from Fox 2 News Detroit, FYI.
yeah, definitely we want to reference that. Big okay. Biggest issue. I mean, I say biggest issue like there's only one. Where do I begin? The the romanticization of gun culture. Number one, I refuse to believe this is the first time that they heard of some sort of ideation um, from their kid. It almost seems like they were encouraging the behavior.
Yeah, the whole don't get caught type of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like that shit is absolutely coming up in court. You're literally trying to teach your child how to be dishonest in certain scenarios, involving school administrators for Christ's sake. The prosecutors literally considered them to be a flight risk because they had no ties to the community. Well, they damn sure got a tie now. Um, and I'll tell you another thing. There is going to be this reflex to say, well, why didn't school administrators do more?
To that, I say, like what? Not saying, not having you answer that. To anybody that asks that, like, what more would they have done? They tried. The parents, again, according to the article I just read to you, seemed like they didn't really care. I'll say that, but it may not be the best word to use. It just seemed like they didn't care. Sorry, go ahead.
It, Here's the thing, and no, I can't answer that question because I'm not in the mind of trying to enable that type of dysfunctional behavior. They, the biggest issue I see, one, there's so much liability nowadays with school administrators. You have can't even talk to these kids anymore if they're doing something wrong. You you think being a teacher is hard. You got like school administrators. Imagine trying to enforce any sort of modicum of respect for people or property. And of course, there is a great big argument, which is why do people feel the need to have firearms like that in the first place? Because they're trying to protect life and or property. Yeah, that rationale. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to take the L on this one in this particular case. I also think it's shady as hell that they didn't turn themselves in immediately. They definitely pulled a OJ, where like, oh, we're not quite ready to to turn ourselves in.
Oh, see that. So now I don't know if this changed or not, but initial reports were that they fled because of not because they were trying to duck anything, because they were getting so much backlash and threats in their neighborhood, or whatever. So that was the initial reports, the initial stuff they might have said, which it's probably BS. But even if it isn't, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I. Oh, sorry to cut you off. What else you have to say, bud?
Yeah, ironically, they're going to say, "Oh, well, we feared for our lives. We feared for our safety," ignoring the fact they didn't give a fuck about anybody else's safety in that town.
No, but you know what? Even if they did fear for their safety, and even if people did feel a certain way to the parents about this stuff, I mean, again, not that here at the Cowpart Bros we ever, you know, encourage anyone to commit violence against anyone else. But I'm not a parent. You are. I can't speak for you, but I'd imagine that if you knew that another parent aided their kid in putting your kids in danger, you're probably gonna feel a certain way about it. You're probably gonna feel a little emotion about it, and that emotion may be some sort of rage and anger. Again, I can't speak for you, but knowing how you are about family and kids, I'd imagine that you might not feel too happy about it, to say the least. So if they were in danger from other neighbors, hey, you know, again, not encouraging it, but as a human who understands emotion, I get it.
We need a little less emotion and a little more actual logic, because if someone is literally telling school administrator is telling you, "Hi, your child is a problem. You need to come get them."
To me, that was the problem for me. I mean, obviously, the gun itself is one thing, but they're telling you. I mean, take the gun out of it, sort of.
You
They're,
can't.
well, what I'm saying is, even if they didn't buy him a gun, even if they didn't do that, the drawings itself alone, that's something. Anybody who's watched TV at all knows that if a kid's drawing pictures like that, that is a problem. Whether you bought him a gun or not, doesn't matter. You know that is a problem. And that was the day of. Knowing you just bought him a gun days prior. So obviously the drawings, he can actually act this out because you gave him a gun. And you keep it in the house unsecured and he knows where it is.
Not to mention, oh, well, you've given him this gift. If you've already gifted it to him early, what would this child think anything of boundaries at that point?
Now, I don't know. And obviously, the parents are charged with involuntary manslaughter, so I don't know if there's any state laws that might come into play here that might save them or anything when it comes to. Because my first thought is, why are you buying a 15-year-old a gun at all? They can't legally have it. No, that's what I was going to say. They can't legally have it. But I was going to say that maybe some state law I don't know about that allows parents to get it. I mean, this is Michigan we're talking about, so we don't know. But yeah, I mean, to me that part, like, why are you buying a 15-year-old a gun? I mean, yeah, I'm not a, and I know I'm not a parent, people. I know, but still, that part I don't understand. That I mean, he can't legally possess it on his own anyway. So why are you buying it for him 3 years early? That
Who says that they were all that concerned with the legality of it?
that well, clearly, but that's what I'm saying though. It's I hear you. I agree with you. They clearly weren't. But even first of all, I question 18-year-olds: are they really mentally ready to possess guns? Let alone somebody who's still in high school, who we don't even know he's gone through puberty yet. So, but yeah, he has a handgun, lethal weapon, in which he chose to use, which we still don't know why. Which all three of them pled not guilty. So I based on the letters or rather the drawings he made in school, I can probably imagine what the grounds are going to be for his not guilty plea. But when I saw that, I'm like, bro, you had the gun in your hand. You shot 4 people. Witnesses saw you shoot them. Yeah, I obviously this may not play out for years, as far as in game when it comes to criminally. But I'm very curious to hear what if it's not that, as far as insanity or whatever. I'd be very curious to hear what his grounds are for not playing not guilty when you clearly did it. So
Well, you know, defense strategy aside, I mean, if even the guilty deserve a good defense, but
agreed, but
even the undefensible. So the biggest issue is that, number one, you have 4 children dead. You have a community rocked. I mean, who feels comfortable going into a school a week after a tragedy like this happens. I freak the hell out every time I see a notification about, hi, there was a safety incident. A lot of false alarms, right? It usually starts with somebody talking shit on Instagram or TikTok with a threat, or someone sees a weapon or ammunition. You see the beginnings of a tragedy, and if you're lucky, you get to avoid it. And in this case, it really what feels so fucked up about this particular shooting. I mean, they're all atrocious. They're all avoidable, ironically. Um, it's just a reflection of a failed society that has prioritized gun ownership to the point that the other the other Bill of Rights don't even matter. That's the sad part.
You know what's interesting? Right before we started jumping on to record this, I was watching YouTube making some show notes, and one of the channels I follow is like a reaction channel. It's three guys from England, and they react to videos and stuff like that. And this may have been a coincidence, I don't know, but one thing they reacted to was a comedy bit by Chris Rock, and which he was talking about gun control, and he was talking about school shootings. You know, about the in general the kids that make up who kids who typically do these school shootings and stuff like that. And obviously he was joking about it, making light of it. Um, but I just found it interesting that he was talking about gun control, and this is way back when, back in the Columbine days, trench coat mafia, stuff like that. And how many years ago was that? That's that was in the '90s, and here
I
we
mean,
are.
Columbine literally happened April 20th, 1999.
There you go. So that was, like I said, back in the '90s, and here we are, 20 plus years later, and we're still having these type of school shootings. You know, um, which I hate to say it, maybe there's nothing that can be really done to stop it because of Second Amendment. People want their guns, and I get that. But the problem it comes in, like in this case, when people have the right to have guns, but those certain people aren't responsible enough to actually handle it correctly. I mean, I have my opinions on that, but I don't want to get off topic. But so I don't know if there's anything that can stop this stuff. It's really just sad and unfortunate that all the stuff seems to happen. I mean, again, I'm not a parent, but I definitely empathize with you what you just said when it comes to every notification, safety notification that comes. You're wondering, oh crap, is this the one? Am I going to click on this and find out there was a shooting? Come get your kid, or whatever may be. You know, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Like I said, I can empathize. Imagine if I had a kid and think about that. I would honestly, I would be worried to send my kid to school every day for fear of that happening. Maybe a small percent chance of it happening in general. I get that, but how do you know your school is not going to be the one? And as a parent, I would freak out every single day that's going to happen. So again, I empathize with you, your wife, any other parent listening to this who has sends their kids to school, no matter what age they are. So I can definitely empathize with you on that. So maybe hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe one day we'll nip this all in the bud when it comes to gun violence in general, but definitely gun violence when it comes to schools. That should be. I know you talk about places that should be a safe space. I know that word gets thrown out there a lot, but for schools that should be certainly the case in all forms, whether it be physical, verbal, or you know shootings. So again, all we can do is hope and pray that one day we'll stop all this stuff. So hopefully we can do that. It's going to take the people, and the government to all work together and get it done. So hopefully one day before you and I die, sir, we'll see that.
Also, another thing I wanted to touch on is that the they indicated he had no disciplinary record prior, and I find that's a big. I think that's a bigger piece of these shootings is that we're so we want background checks. More than likely, your next school shooter won't even be caught by that because they'll have the cleanest record on planet Earth, and they'll have some schmuck of a parent who is literally adding fuel to the fire for them to actualize the next mass shooting at a school. That's the most disheartening part. It makes me think about uh, the shooting with Adam Lanza, where he, again, another person, unfortunately unstable, that had unfettered access to a firearm.
One thing I do want to bring up real quick because we brought similar things up in previous, shooting things we talked about. Um, Article from CNN, which is from yesterday, December 6th. Authorities executed a search warrant Monday at the home of the man who helped Ethan Crumley's parents before they were arrested, according to Oakland County Under Sheriff Michael G. McCabe. And no, forgive me, I can't pronounce the first name, but Andres Socorro, 65, and his attorney Clarence Das voluntarily went into the Oakland County Sheriff's Office where Socorro was interviewed for about 2 hours Monday, according to a news release from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Socorro fully cooperated and answered all law enforcement's questions. Mr. Socorro did not assist the Crumleys in evading law enforcement, did not know there was a warrant for their arrest, and did not know they were at his art studio at the time of their arrest. Das said in a statement, that's a lawyer. He was not charged. He has not been charged with any crime. Will not continue. He will continue to assist members of law enforcement in the pursuit of justice. Now, with that being said, the warrant was issued for the home of Sakura. The issues for a detective is what did Sakura know and when did he know it? The release said adding the search warrant on Sakura's home was executed immediately after questioning. The sheriff's detectives went to Sakura's Troy, Michigan home and executed a search warrant, seizing several digital devices for examination. The information will then be presented to prosecutors to determine if charges are appropriate. So basically, like they said, they want to know what he knew and when did he know it.
Yep.
So
Yes.
just bring that up just because we brought up again other aiding and abettors in the previous shooting. They talked about when it comes to Rittenhouse, um, and the officer in Chicago, Ella French, who lost her life. We brought up the enablers who were charged or potentially charged. So I didn't want to not do that again in this situation.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how they explain them not turning themselves in. They had already been considered fugitives because they didn't report on time. And oh, by the way, they just hanging out with 4Gs. And I think their cell phone was turned off. I could be wrong too. Yeah, very, very odd behavior.
Yeah. Now again, I'm not a legal expert, but I am. I'm assuming this is probably going to start playing out legally, probably in the summer of next year. Um, one last thing, because we've all done this before. Um, just kind of want to. I don't know the right words to say, but I want to acknowledge the children who lost their lives or people who lost their lives here. The shooting claimed the lives, according to a CNN article, the shooting claimed the lives of Madison Baldwin, 17, Tate Meyer, 16, Hannah St. Juliana, 14, and Justin Schilling, 17. Now, those are the students in particular. Again, there were other teachers and whatnot wounded, and other students wounded as well, but unfortunately, those are the ones who lost their lives. Um, to their families, loved ones, and friends and fellow students, my condolences go out to all of you.
Yeah, my condolences as well. Very somber day, not only for that town and that school, but the nation as well. All right. That concludes our segment on yet another senseless school shooting in America. Coming up next in segment 2, we're going to be talking about why athletes are still faking vaccination records. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.